different.
Sorry, I just started it. I'll edit it
No,
all
you're
out.
fine.
So,
You're fine.
um, yeah, so we're beach people. So like you can
Yeah,
see the little flip-flops.
I know. I love it. It's so cute.
So
Every time you drink out of it, it reminds you of being at the beach
it does
and
actually.
flip-flops and summertime and
In warm weather as the impending storm of doom approaches.
I
Um,
know. Did you hear? There was a big crackle of thunder. I don't know if you heard
is
that.
that what that was? Like about
Yes.
15 minutes ago? So
Yeah.
just so everybody knows, Janelle and I live like a mile from each other. Um,
Yeah.
and we actually met when I was working for Estimate Mastery, which was based out of Salt Lake City. So I met her on a Zoom call, not realizing that she lived within a mile of me, which is really funny. Yeah. Oh, so like, let's talk about so just so you know, like all topics are on the table. Simi and I talked about aviation in the last one for like 20 minutes because that plane in Toronto had just landed and flipped upside down, remember?
Yeah.
And Bree, one of my 14-year-olds, is huge into aviation.
Mm-hmm.
And Janelle, she watched the video and it was like a security camera video. And it was like, you could see the plane come down. You could see the plane come down, land, and then there was a fireball. And then it was like a poof of snow because it was in Toronto, right? It was in Canada.
Right.
And she watches the video once. She goes, Dad, you know what happened? They landed too hard. They collapsed the rear landing gear. And then the one of the engines hit the ground and it tore the wing off and rolled over. Just like completely matter of fact.
Yeah.
And so then, like 2 days later, right before we had like what right, the day out that we did the episode one of the podcast, this video comes out from a pilot in a cockpit on the opposite side, so you can actually see the whole thing. And here comes that plane. It comes down. It lands too hard, collapses the rear landing gear,
Mm-hmm.
catches an engine on the ground, rips the wing off, and rolls over on its top.
Yeah. And you're going, and
Hey,
how
just a
did you know
second.
this? Sure.
Just oh my gosh. Well, we'll edit that part out. Um, so she jumping right back into it. So she jumped. So she knew this because she did a science fair project on plane crashes.
Great. So then she
So
just
she
boom.
knew exactly what it was because it was exactly like a different plane crash.
Right. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
What a
And
smart.
and so anyway, so Sammy and I got onto this topic because we're like, I'm like, she watched the video once and away she went. She knew
Yeah.
exactly what it was. Um,
That's amazing.
Incomplete. So I was going to show you. So I wonder, can I stack these? Uh,
You might want to edit this part out too.
yeah, I will.
I was just gonna say, I think I've slambasted the um adjuster for Slate advertisement for their carpet deal, by the way.
Yeah, he's still working on that.
Well, I just got it like a week or something ago, and
Andy get tired of? Did Andy finally get tired of doing it?
well, he doesn't know what to do. So he's like, Janelle, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like, but I do. So let me help you. Um, anyway, I pretty much slambasted the insurance company today on that one. And the email that I sent to the adjuster is just basically freaking amazing because I set it up. Well, I'm going to just read it to you really quick. It only took a second. It says, Kelsey, I hope you're doing well. I am writing regarding the carpet issue at Slate Advertising. Please find attached or please find the attached of the following documents for your review. Number 1, Kelly's carpet letter concerning the carpet. Number 2, Carpet Land's letter regarding the carpet. Number 3, the email from Maximum Cleaning and Restoration regarding the carpet, and the ITEL report. That was number 4, by the way. Regarding, or below are my concerns regarding the current carpet. Age and availability. The carpet is over 10 years old and no longer is manufactured. Due diligence. Both Kelly's Carpet and Carpetland thoroughly reviewed the suggested samples from ITEL and explored additional options to ensure no alternatives were overlooked. Condition. Gabe at Maximum noted that due to the heavy traffic, the carpet cannot be effectively cleaned to match the areas that have experienced minimal use, such as those covered by closet access. Uniformity. The carpet extends throughout the building into the conference rooms and offices, with only variations being in the front entrance, bathrooms, and break room/kitchen area. Installation consistency. The original installation provided a cohesive carpet layout. The suggestion to pull up carpet from the closet raises concerns about how the repair would be managed in an area that originally had carpet. Coverage. The total carpet area is approximately 5,000 square feet. My boss, Andy, will be going to measure up the carpet this week to get accurate measurements. In light of these issues, I kindly request that the claim be updated to include the replacement of the carpet. Please provide me an updated copy of the claim at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Kindest regards, Janelle Grieco, Anderson. And anyway, so then I provided all the documents. So Andy was like, oh my God, that's a lot of steps that you went through. And I said, here's the deal. When we're trying to get the insurance company to provide something to the property owner, in this case, it's a commercial project, you have to give them all the reasons to say yes and slash out all their reasons to say no.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that we give them all this information, compiling the information, providing them documentation, then they have nowhere to go, because you're basically giving them every reason now to say yes. So that's
Yes.
Andy has learned. And I said, so what steps did we do? We had the cleaning carpet people come in. I had 2 different carpet people get involved. Why? Because Kelly's Carpet is a smaller carpeting company. They only have access to certain carpet brands. I
Well,
said,
and they're also the most recognizable in Omaha too.
exactly. That's exactly what I said. And then I also said we went with Carpetland because they are the biggest carpeting distributor in Nebraska. So I wanted to cover a broad area of carpets, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, and we look at the ITEL report as only one minimal piece of the puzzle. So then when we combined everything and we talk about age and availability, due diligence, condition, uniformity, installation, consistency, and coverage, there you go. That's what it is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing that most people don't understand when they're doing uh, supplementing, is that you gotta I mean, it's like our buddy John Cenac says, you got to control the narrative. So if you, like with that email, the reason that that is such a great email is that you essentially pose the question, like here's the problem, you pose the solution, you debunk the solution, and then you pose another solution, you debunk that solution, you pose a third solution, you debunk that solution, essentially holding their hand and um, walking them down the path to approving the entire carpet. And it's the same thing that you have to do when you deal with like roofing too, right? Like, so, I was in Lincoln yesterday looking at one. It's the Cordy. I'm
Mhm.
still working on that one, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like you walk around and you take photos and you control the narrative. So like there's um splatter everywhere. There's collateral damage everywhere.
Hmm.
They're replacing the gutters entirely.
Hmm.
Um, and so when you're doing all of that and you're taking these pictures and you're looking at the vents, and the vents have dents and splatter, and the pipe jacks have dents and splatter, and
Hmm.
you start looking at the shingles, and the first hit you find is on the opposite slope of where the storm was, and it's that big. If I
Hmm.
mean it's like, and most people don't understand that, like with hail and asphalt, usually the hail hit is about 2/3 of what the actual size of the hailstone was,
Hmm.
because you just get the initial smack, right?
Hmm.
And then if the hail's hard enough, it'll just bounce off. Well, so based on that, like doing the measurement on that hail hit, I mean, we're looking at 2.5 to 3 inch hail. And this is out of that tornado that came through and hit Elkhorn on April 26th. So we're still dealing with that. It's been almost 11 months. And the last interaction that I had with the insurance company was, oh, we're just not doing anything. They won't send out an engineer. They won't do a reinspection. They're just refusing to do anything. And so my solution was, well, let me go out. I sent them an email and I said, well, it's truly unfortunate that we can't go out and do an investigation together and talk through these things together. But I'm still going to go out and do an inspection, and I will send you those results when I have. And like I said, I just did it yesterday, but the fact that they will not spend the time to properly investigate a claim is really what's the travesty. Now, like if they've been out twice to that property. Now that was, when was the last time? Maybe June of last year, maybe. Um, but then like the second claim that I looked at yesterday was a commercial property. It was a apartment building, and that second claim, I was the so I've been out once before, so this was the second time that I was there. They've been out there 3 times. 3 times. It's a water
Wow.
loss. This isn't rocket science. And
Right.
I got the adjuster's estimate from the inspection yesterday, and it's still missing things.
Hmm. Yeah.
And and like even when we were on site, they had some cabinets that had water lines on them, and he's like, no, I think that's like pre-existing damage. And it's like, you can't prove that.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's he said, well, I don't think these are custom cabinets. And the property manager was right there, and she goes, no, they are. They were made by the cabinet shop here in town.
See?
She like just instantly fired
Yeah.
right back at him. So
Yeah.
that was really funny. But it's, I mean, there's just so many claims I have right now that I just can't get them to land.
Yeah.
Like I probably have, I mean, they are just essentially flat out refusing to acknowledge that there is a dispute.
You know what? It's interesting. I had one this summer, that was on 3 tabs. And when I go out onto a house that has wind damage, I like to document my wind damage a lot different than most people do. And I think I might have sent you that in the 3 tab thing, a picture that I took
Maybe.
of blocking, but I could show it to you again. I mean, if you want, I can pull it up to view it. But the thing of it is there's a couple of problems that we're having with three tabs is people aren't documenting three tabs correctly. And secondly, the biggest issue that I had with this one was they came out and they literally looked at the roof from the gutter. It's a steep roof. They couldn't give it because it's a steep roof, but they knew that in advance. So send out, Hancock or Seek Now or one of those that can get on steep roofs, or, do drone or something where you could provide a very adequate and thorough investigation of a roof. And because I pointed this out to them, they would not come back out and give these people a thorough investigation. They wouldn't. So I had them, and mind you, Josiah is a PA, so that works a little differently. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. So I have to work in a little different capacity. But I had the homeowner file a complaint. We had to file it 3 times. On that third time, they agreed that they would entertain me going back out and doing an investigation because they wanted more pictures, because my customer kept saying, no, these are not just pictures of the front elevation, these are also back elevation pictures. And so the great thing about it is they finally agreed for me to do this. So we went back out there and took these really good pictures of these creased shingles on that back elevation. And they finally goes, oh, yes, you're right. We'll go ahead and, um, okay, you're right. We'll go ahead and do this. Okay. It took my customer 3 complaints with the State Board of Insurance to get them to do anything. I mean, 3 complaints, that's really not necessary. Like, you know what I mean? At 3 complaints. And the biggest thing is then they don't understand that in our area, even though it will say plain as day on an ITEL report that there's a shortage of 3 tabs in our area, they also don't want to pay what 3 tabs are currently costing. So then that makes it another issue to work through, because in Xactimate, it still says that 3 tabs cost less than laminated comp shingles. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the truth, because everybody knows, all the manufacturers know that they're not running those 3 tabs on a line as often as they're running the laminated comp shingles. They're just not giving them line time. Okay, so it costs more for the supplier to get a 3 tab in from the manufacturer. So if it's going to cost more than a laminated comp shingle, why would they decide that that would be a good financial decision to do that? It doesn't. So
That
the
makes no that
supplier,
makes no that makes no sense.
it makes no sense. So the suppliers are just have all gotten together and they have just said, you know what, we're not doing this. We're not going to carry 3 tabs anymore because they cost too much. Okay. So then the other second part of this is that the other tactic that the insurance company will take is they'll call up one of these suppliers and say, oh, do you have some 3 tabs of whatever? And then they call you back up, or they'll send you an email that says, oh yeah, well, I called over at SRS and they said they have 3 tabs. Well, what question did you ask them? Whether they sell 3 tabs, or whether they have 3 tabs, or whether they'll order 3 tabs in. I mean, you have to be very specific. So I said, okay, well, let me find out for sure. So I call over there and they said, no, we don't order 3 tabs in. Yes, we have a few random bundles of 3 tabs for a very small repair of less, like a bundle or two of some 3 tabs, not knowing that an exact color or the exact type may or may not have it available. So then you have to call back up the carrier and say, well, look, here's the question that you asked. And yes, they do have 3 tabs, but they have a very limited supply. This is the only amount that they have left, but that's not the amount that we need to do this repair, nor is it the shingle that you can use to do that repair. So they're asking not appropriate questions to the suppliers. And then the other thing is if I have to travel 7 hours or so to go get him out of a different state, then obviously your sub crew is going to want a day's worth of pay to go pick it up, hotel, food, and another day's of pay to go back because they're losing 2 days worth of pay. Plus,
Mhm.
then they have to hand load it to the roof besides because it can't be roof dropped. So there's a hefty amount of money right there just in having them go get it. So it makes no sense. None of this makes any sense, but they just want to continue on their own trajectory of, oh, well, this is what we're doing. We have to pay for what was there. Great. But you just wrote a claim then that I can't perform. I
So
even asked, I even asked them in a polite way. I said, I know the customer, and this is how I talk. I know the customer filed this claim, but at this point, because you wrote a scope of work that can't be performed, where do we send the check back to? Customer and I want to know, like, where can we send the check back to? We can't use this money because we can't get the roof fixed. Oh no, well you can't you can't do that. Oh no, we've already
and
paid.
in come the clutching of pearls.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh well you
um,
can't do that.
your camera's fuzzy.
Oh, whoops. Hold on. Let's see what's going on. I don't know. Hold on 1 second. I can fix it. Is that better?
Yep. Friend of the
Okay.
program, Brucey Lagusi's here. One of
Oh,
our
nice.
pugs. Yep. Um, well, it's funny because you bring up ITEL, right? And so a lot of what we deal with in general is like if they don't pay for a full replacement, they rely on ITEL. I guess State Farm's got RLS now. Our friend of the program, John Senek's got, and Nolan Snyder have named that shingle. But a lot of the time, like if you send it to not ITEL without with anybody other than State Farm, right? You
Right.
send it to not ITEL,
Mhm.
whoever identifies it,
Right.
they just refuse to acknowledge it, right? So like,
Exactly right.
and so then we not only are you fighting the battle of, hey, this shingle's discontinued, we have manufacturer specifications that saying that it's incompatible to anything that they manufacture at this point.
Right.
So you're fighting both of these issues. But then, wait for it. Here's my aha moment. Where's it at? Right here. Share. But then you have stuff like this. If you haven't read this,
Ah,
I ran into this a few weeks ago when it came out. I don't know Andrew McCabe. I'd love to chat with him though. I suspect that he's on this side of the fence. I'm not sure if he's a licensed public adjuster. I don't know a lot about him specifically, but this is not. How do I want to say that? It's not looking very kindly on ITEL. So when I first started in the industry in 2006, ITEL only did carpet. So if
mhm,
you had like a water loss or a fire loss, you could send in your piece of carpet and they would match it.
mhm.
That's all they did.
Yeah.
They wouldn't tell you if it was damaged. They would just match it for you. Meaning, if it was Mohawk Sierra Foxtrot, I don't know if that's a brand. I know Mohawk's a brand, but like they would say, oh, it's Mohawk Sierra Foxtrot, and it's approximately, $2.63 a square foot. That's all they
Hmm.
would do.
Hmm.
Um, Now since then, they've graduated. They've graduated to siding first. Siding was first, and then shingles were last. And I'm just going to scroll down so you can read the rest of it. Um, but the issue that I have with them is that when they when they got away from carpet and started doing siding, now magically it was, oh, this product's discontinued. They got into that. It wasn't saying like it was saying what it was, but then it was saying that it was discontinued, and then it's like, but here's a match, kind of like, I'm looking at one that we were just talking about on the roof, right? And it's got the original product is discontinued, matching products are available. Okay. How do you define what a matching product is? Is it close, like horseshoes and hand grenades? Like, is it, like what's the definition there? And I don't know if it's ever been defined. But then you have articles like this where, come to find out, ITEL is owned by Global Claim Services.
Hmm.
Here's the next gotcha. You ready? Here's what Global Claim Services does. Global Claim Services is an insurance service provider whose mission is to help property insurance companies effectively settle claims worldwide.
Right. And
How are
so,
you impartial at this point? That's like saying that Donan or Rimkus engineering firms are impartial. Do they do any work outside of the forensic consulting field? No.
no,
So why would they bite the hand that feeds them? Of course they're going to go out and say that roof has no hail damage and that it's all mechanical. Of course they're going to say there's no wind damage. Of course they are, because it's financially prudent that they do it, because they want that carrier to come back, because that's
yeah,
their only source of revenue.
exactly. And
Like
the other
that's
thing, yeah,
go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
no,
I I,
I wanted
I
to
was on a
just
soapbox
add,
there.
no, 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 it's great because that goes into the segue into what I've been teaching. I've actually, even with estimate mastery, I've even showed contractors all over the United States, like I have examples of ITEL reports that are false, blatantly false.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, and then
And
you have our boys over here at NTS on the other side. They're going, what? Why
yeah,
wouldn't you accept us? Because we're actually providing you. Not only do they provide, and this is going to sound like an advertisement, it's not intended to,
no,
and but they can always sponsor the show. I'm more than open to that. But they provide not only what the shingle is, they provide whether it's continued or discontinued. They
mhm,
provide the uh, installation instructions, the manufacturer specification. Like,
mhm,
it's not just one thing. They provide literally the whole kit and caboodle. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. They are not cheap, right?
no,
And the
but it
insurance company's
doesn't
probably
matter.
not going to pay for it. But if the difference between 400, well, it's not $400 anymore, a $700 repair,
Mhm.
as I found out a couple weeks ago, because I use roofing minimums way too often. I don't at
Mhm.
all, ever. Um, but so it's $700 roofing minimum and a $15,000 roof. If your average contractor's making anywhere from 30 to 40% if they handle their job costing right. So I mean, is that 150 to $200 worth the $5,000 in profit that you may get? That's an employee for a month
That
in
is.
most instances.
Well, and here's another thing too is, and this is why my personal belief, people can disagree with me, but I've always taught, go ahead and call up the insurance company, ask them what their process is. Follow their process. If they want an ITEL report, follow that. But here's the thing. the more information you have to pack it with, the better off you are. So let them go ahead and do this ITEL report, or let them whatever, but go ahead and do the NTS report as well.
Mhm.
Okay, now we have a claim, and you're familiar with this. I had two squares on a roof once, and they had we did an ITEL report. We also did an NTS report. We also had State Farm do their report. Good thing we did. And I'm happy we did. And the reason why was because you have backed up information. State Farm does not usually in their reports identify. They just give you suggestions of
Mhm.
things that might quote unquote work, but they don't usually say, well, it's this with this exposure and this thickness and this whatever, right? No, they
Mhm.
don't do that. So the more information that you stack, and that comes all the way back to what we were talking about from the beginning, is that you're now backing them into a corner because you keep giving them so much documentation that they almost then a lot of times can't tell you then no, because you just keep stacking them and stacking them with more documentation. And the thing of it is that the more we do that, let's just say you had a really big claim and it could go to litigation if it needed to.
I
But
have one.
you've done, huh?
I have one.
Yeah, you have one. But here's the deal. The whoever it is, whether it be the contractor, and I say start at the contractor level, start at the homeowner level. And if you have to keep going further down the line, getting a PA or whatever, by the time that you have collected so much information and then they're just blatantly putting the stops on this, look at then that lawyer has a much easier time, or whoever, whatever process this is in, is you've got so much information that you can just now give to this, and that person can say, look, we've provided you all this and you're blatantly not looking at the documentation that is blatantly telling you whatever information it is, right?
So
So on a roof, going back just really quick, so
mhm.
on a roof, you follow their process. You get an NTS report. You, if it's State Farm, get their report. Do everything. Now you have backup documentation. Whatever they say to you, you can say, well, ITEL says this, which is contradictory to that, and NTS says this, which is contradictory to this. Now, ITEL is by by insurance for insurance companies. NTS is not paid by anybody. It's just a regular
It's
company.
paid. I mean, to be fair, it's paid by the contractor.
Yeah, it's paid
Yeah,
by the contractor.
yeah.
So we've got one paid by the insurance and we've got one paid by the contractor. But guess what? They're actually giving information that is leading you down to the correct information, right?
Well, and it vali- validifies. Is that a word? Validifies. It validifies the NTS report. If the ITEL and the NTS
Solidifies.
yeah, if the ITEL and the NTS report come back with the same product, I mean, it shows that the NTS report is accurate, right?
Right,
And so
it does.
so that's I mean that's the thing with, like, I have a large tornado loss right now that I'm dealing with that is on the doorsteps of litigation. It's not in litigation yet,
Mhm.
but that's what we've done on that one. We've documented everything.
Yeah.
We've had experts out to test the windows are the big
Mhm.
sticker shock on that one.
Mhm.
Um, and we just cannot get them to budge. And I spoke, so we're on our sixth adjuster, maybe, who called me Friday while I was walking with my family and I have an annual a weekly thing every Friday afternoon. We go to Costco and we have cheap hot dogs and whatnot for dinner on Fridays because that's where we're all at that point.
Right.
Um, and so I'm talking to this adjuster from State Farm on this claim, and I finally got one that actually sounded like they knew what they were doing.
Mhm.
Now, then the adverse, this is Friday. Yesterday, I get a phone call on a different claim. It's just an itty bitty little house. It's a cute
Mhm.
little house down in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
Um, it's one of my kids' preschool teachers,
Yeah.
and you know, she reached out after State Farm denied it and
Mhm.
said, nope, there wasn't any damage. And she goes, hey, can you help? I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. And I cut her a discount and said, yeah, I'll work on it in my off hours, because it's not big. And I was like, it may take 6, 8, 10, 12 months, whatever. But I'm pretty sure we can get it pushed through.
Mhm.
And, I went over and did an inspection when it was real nice last week and walked the roof. And there's legit hail damage. And it's a 3-tab. And I had
There you
mentioned
go.
this to you, and legit hail damage. And so I take my photos, I document it, I take my photos, send it into State Farm. Oh, Saturday maybe, so like a few days ago, and I get a phone call yesterday while I'm on the road, and the adjuster says, "Well, my TM reviewed it, of course, using acronyms that we would to try and confuse people. Like
Right. Of course.
I can only imagine if this was a homeowner that they called and told this to. They said that the gal was very nice, the adjuster, and but she calls and she says, "Well, my TM has reviewed it, and um, she's going to have to file a second claim." And I'm like, "What?"
Why?
I said, "Why?" Well, we think the damage is from a different data loss. And I said,
Hmm.
"So are you familiar with Omaha?" And she goes, "No." She's like, "I'm from Washington D.C." And I go, "Okay," which is
Okay.
fine. You do you. I said, we had 5 hailstorms that hit the city in a matter of 8 weeks,
Mhm.
and significant swaths of the city.
Right. Hmm.
And the thing of it is that she filed it in May after the hailstorm.
Hmm.
And you guys, I'm sure, took your sweet time. And I think the last hailstorm was June 26th ish.
Right.
Yeah, somewhere in that, like June 20,
Oh no, the last storm I think was July 31st.
that was the windstorm though. That
Oh,
there was no
that's
hail in
what.
that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, that
right.
was the one that knocked my tree down in my backyard and took my tile out.
Yes.
Um, I was very familiar with that one, but
Yes.
I'm still fighting with my claim on that too. But so I'm talking to this adjuster, and she says, "Well, she's going to have to file a second claim." And I said, "That doesn't make any sense." I said, "If you're familiar with Omaha, we had 5 hailstorms in the matter of 8 weeks,
Hmm.
starting at April 12th
Hmm.
and ending in late June. We
Right.
had 5 storms that significantly hit a large portion of the city."
Right.
And I said, and I can attest because she lives a few blocks away from me
Right.
that we got hit in 4 of those storms.
Hmm.
Now, was the hail big enough at my house to do damage? I don't think so. That's why I didn't file a claim. Could I have? Sure. Would the roof gotten approved? Absolutely. If
Hmm.
there was damage, but I don't know if there was damage or not. And I haven't been up to inspect my roof because we just had it replaced. I'm not going to mess.
Yeah. Right.
Like, we had it replaced in 2023. Like, it's 2 years
Yeah.
old. I'm not going to mess with it.
No.
And the 3-tab roof on her house, which is old, right? It's a 3-tab, so it's old.
Hmm.
It's probably seen 10 hailstorms,
Oh, probably.
12, maybe. I've got my roof replaced twice since 2019 by
Hmm.
hail.
Hmm.
Did I want to get them replaced? Absolutely not.
Hmm.
But like the second storm was significant enough where I was like, I'm gonna have to get it replaced now.
Hmm.
I mean, that storm, the hail was bouncing off of my sidewalk 5 feet high. I have video. I mean, that's how hard the hailstones were.
Yes.
But here's the thing: is like you cannot tell someone. So we went down that path, and I had that discussion with you. Can't put an age on hail. There is no scientific survey that has
Mm,
ever been done that says if you do X, you can tell the age of this particular hail hit. It doesn't exist.
right.
So if you're telling me that she needs to file a second claim with a second deductible, you better provide proof that this hail damage was not there prior to the inspection, prior to my inspection, which was last week. So between State Farm's inspection and my inspection, that damage has to happen, and you have to be able to prove it.
Right.
Because if not, then it's all bets are off because we have no idea when we have no idea. All I know is that hail damage happened before I did my inspection. That's the only documentation that I have.
Right.
And so I'm explaining this to her, and of course she's tied up in knots and is like, And I said, why did your team manager make the decision and then give it to you to be the sacrificial lamb and to call a public adjuster?
Right.
I was like, how unfair to you?
Yeah.
Like, it's so ridiculous. What do
It
you
is
got, bud?
ridiculous.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll be up in a few.
Um,
Mailman.
no, it is really ridiculous because once again, they just
So no, so listen. So here this team
yeah,
manager is
yeah,
making this decision
mhm,
and handing it down to the person below them
yeah,
and having them call the public adjuster and
yeah, it's
tell and
ridiculous.
say my team manager doesn't feels that this should be a second claim with a second deductible.
Hmm.
And when I say my response is, how did they come to that decision?
Right.
And she says, I don't know. I didn't make the decision. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yes, I know. I know
Like
what, and
it's like, what universe are we living in?
well, the thing of it is like I love how you told her though. Like this is unfair to you
Yeah, that's
because
like that's like sending the
that
cow to the
manager
slaughterhouse and expecting an outcome other than the cow going to the slaughterhouse.
exactly right. And why didn't that manager have the guts to call a public adjuster and have this discussion themselves?
And it's a small. I mean, we're talking 10K. It's a small roof.
Yeah,
Like,
but still, it doesn't matter. You're and here's the problem of it. And this is the redesign of the claims process. They don't want they want it to be this way because the lower person just is like, well, I don't know. This is what they said. I didn't make the decision. This is what they said. And
yeah.
and
So
and
I said I want your team manager's information, and I want to
yes.
have a conversation with the team manager. She goes, well, I don't know if that's appropriate. And I said, that's exactly what's appropriate in this
Oh,
instance.
yes, definitely.
That should have been the phone call that I got today instead of you. And I said, no
Def-
offense to you. You've been very kind
yeah,
because I'll never be mean. But it's like, what do we do? Like I
right.
get it. I get it. They're like, we've all read the books. We all know about
Oh
delay,
yeah.
deny, defend,
Oh yeah.
free Luigi. Like we all know
Oh
about
yeah.
all of that stuff, right?
Hmm.
And we've dealt with it on a daily basis since, well, me since 2020,
Yeah,
like on this side of the fence, right?
right.
Before that, I was on the other side of the fence,
Right.
but so I've been dealing with it since 2005, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Hmm.
Um, dang near 20 years. Now that I think about it, it might actually be 20 years that I've been in the industry.
Yeah.
But they sit there, and I think the biggest part, the biggest thing that gets me out of the whole, like just the whole claims process,
Hmm.
especially with like your big carriers, the ones that
Hmm.
you see advertised everywhere,
Hmm.
like the just you're in good hands.
Yeah.
Like a good neighbor. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, all of these slogans and advertising, like to get you to buy their product,
Mhm.
knowing that on the back end, after you've purchased their product, on the
Mhm.
back end, they're going to make it so difficult on you to get what you deserve.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have a really hard time with that.
Well, I have a
Like,
hard time with it too.
it just that's like I'm trying to come up with an apt analogy, and I don't know if I can.
I
I
know
I,
it,
I really don't.
and here's the thing that's really also very sad too, and some of them don't know this, and some of them start to as they work for a company, they do start catching on. But you get these new people in there and they have no idea. They think that they're helping the homeowners. They really honestly do.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand how this really works. And they do. Honestly, there's a lot of, and forgive
Oh,
me for saying this, but they're no longer really adjusters. I mean, they're just information collectors,
yeah.
right?
Well,
Investigators.
it's not even that. They're they're literally mouthpieces for the people above them. So it's kind
Right.
of like being a press secretary.
That
Like
exactly.
if you think about it, like everybody's familiar with the White House press secretary. She's not the one making the decisions, but
Mhm.
she's the one that gets trotted out that has to face the reporters and face the questions and face all of that. Like it's kind of the same thing, right? Like looking at my scenario that I encountered yesterday with State Farm, she only knew what the team manager told her. So when I pressed her,
She didn't know.
she had no idea. I
No.
don't know. And so now what has happened is I want to speak to the decision maker. I want to speak to the
Mhm.
team manager.
Right.
And she's like, well, I'll send it up the chain and maybe they can call you. And I said, what's the expected timeline for that? Well,
Mhm.
maybe there's sometime this week. Well, now that $10,000 difference between what my estimate was and what State Farm's estimate was is now
Mhm.
sitting in their bank account for
Right. Exactly.
another 7 to 10 days or whatever,
However
right?
long. Yeah.
However long. And so imagine with someone like State Farm, because at one point I heard that they had like 45% of the market in Nebraska.
Mhm.
So, I mean, so if you think about that, so out of all of the claims that have happened in the state of Nebraska,
Mhm.
and they withhold $10,000, say they withhold a percentage on each one of these claims, we're
Mhm.
talking anywhere from 5 to 10% on any of these claims.
Mhm.
And now you're looking at this company that supposedly lost, I think it was $3.4 billion last year. I'm
Mhm.
trying to remember. I'll have to look it up. Um, State Farm, um, 2024
Well,
P P and okay, so they lost $6.1 billion. Show you this real quick.
okay. But insurance companies really don't lose money. They show that they do.
No. I'll come back to that. I'm just getting
Yes.
started.
Oh, I
So
know.
so they
Yeah.
lose $6.1 billion. I don't know where it's going to show up where I'm at.
Hmm.
It's over here for me.
Yeah, I
Um,
see it.
so they lost $6.1 billion in 2024. Now let's look at uh they made 5.3 billion.
Yeah.
So somehow they lost 6.1 billion in their property and casualty department, but they
But
made 5.3 billion. I know how they did it. It's investments. It's always investments
of course.
and interest rates and things of that nature. Why do you think they want to keep your money longer?
It's exactly right. And they can
Because
invest it longer and to make more money out of it. So
they want that.
the longer they delay, deny, defend, they make money off of your money because they're not paying it out, right?
And then yeah, and this isn't just State Farm, right? The State Farm is the big one, right?
Yeah.
The Fumble Rooski commercial with um oh, I just told Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and like all of those, right? Like what they want the most people they can get their money from. Like it doesn't matter if they're a good loss, bad loss, whatever. Like they're like the Walmart of the insurance industry, right? But it's
Mhm.
not just them that do this.
Right,
It's not
exactly.
just them. Liberty
No.
Mutual does it.
Oh, of
Also,
course.
they all do it. They all do it.
Oh, yeah.
So the longer that they can keep your money, your premiums on their side of the fence, the more money they make.
Hmm.
So and it's shitty for lack of a better way of saying it.
Hmm.
But what advantage would they have to pay that out quickly? None.
Hmm.
They don't have there's literally no advantage for them to pay your claim quickly.
No.
And once people come to that realization, they'll understand why it takes sometimes it takes 9 months, sometimes it takes a year to get a claim paid out, sometimes it takes 2 years, you
Yeah,
know.
and the problem is even contractors have the misunderstanding that there are some claims that you just aren't gonna turn quickly. You're just not going
Well,
to.
you may not win.
No, you may
It
not.
may never it may I have a roof claim of my neighbors, one of the first claims that I signed when as a public adjuster, and I lost
Mm-hmm.
because it got to a point that we demanded appraisal, and
Hmm.
in the state of Nebraska it's a two-party state,
Right.
so they just said no,
Yeah.
and there was nothing I could do. Oh my gosh, the adjuster on this one. So this was right before it was one of the whatever hurricane hit Orlando in
Right.
2023.
Hmm.
And so the adjuster says, "Oh yeah, I'm getting ready to head home. I'm from Orlando." As he gets on site, right? And like it was the hurricane was supposed to hit Orlando the next day. He
Right.
literally got on the roof, Janelle,
Yeah.
did a turned a 360 and got back off the roof. Oh, I didn't see anything.
Um,
Yeah.
And
And
then,
then
yeah.
and then they send out a Hancock person or Seek Now, one of the ladder assist companies. I've got pictures of them like with marks all over the roof.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, we didn't find any additional damage."
Yeah.
Well, and you can't litigate on that. It's too
No.
small.
Right. And
Like
so that's
we're talking like a $10,000 to $12,000 roof. So
and
so
that's
go
well,
ahead.
no, what I was just going to say, and that's also what insurance companies bake on the fact is that most people's claims are not big enough to litigate. So they have the advantage of just saying no or denying or whatever else because they know that that customer doesn't have the means to put forth that
Well,
kind of money into litigating it.
why would you pay? So like, just met with an attorney last week
Yeah,
on a loss, right?
right. Hmm.
If it goes to trial,
Hmm.
if it goes to trial, you're looking at $75,000.
Right. And you're talking about what, maybe a
And
15 to 20,000
why
dollar
would
claim. Why would you do that?
well, and why would the litigator do it?
Well, they're not going to, and that's
Yeah,
what they
even
bank
if they do
on.
it on even if they do it on a contingency, they're ooh, I just spent 250 hours on this and I made 3 grand.
Yeah, see?
They're not going to do that. And that's what
No.
they bank on. And that's why, like, going back to like State Farm and like, well, going back to when I was on the adjuster side, like when
Hmm.
Mad Sky came out.
Yeah.
Remember Mad Sky, the shingle supply company? And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we can do this at 6% less per bundle of shingles or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Hmm.
The rationale by the insurance company was, oh, the roofers make enough money. They can take a 6% hit on their supply on the shingle cost.
Yeah. And you're like,
That literally that's what they told us.
oh, I know. I know. I know. I know.
It's
But
just
it's
crazy.
ridiculous. I can't even imagine. I mean, to me, this whole industry is just what do I want to say? There's not even words that really can fully describe just how this is. But I will say this. One of the things that everybody needs to get to the understanding is number one, make sure that you are not talking to the low man on the totem pole. Make sure that you are always requesting to talk to somebody that's higher. And I had a claim this year, and this person just was not getting it after two calls. And I said, you know what? I can't. I said, your level of understanding of how this works is, let's just put it like this. You're at the beginning stages. I've been doing this for years. I need somebody to talk to, has been doing this for 15 to 20 plus years. And
Well,
number
not
one,
even that, just doing something like been around for more than 5 years.
yeah, exactly. But I said I wanted somebody that had 15 to 20 years doing this. And I said, and I want them to be at least level two or level three exactament certified. And otherwise, I can't talk to anybody because this level of claim deserves this, right? Okay, and this happened to be, and you know this claim. This was one of my asbestos claims. And they just were like not getting it. So then finally, I got this awesome lady at State Farm. I don't know if I should say her name, but she
Don't
is an
say her name.
awesome, I'm not going to. She's an awesome lady. She knows her stuff. She's been in the industry for a long time. And I tell you what, the minute I started explaining to her what actually is going on with this, Janelle, I understand. I got you. I know what to do, blah, 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 blah. Like she was right there with me, completely could understand where I was going, what documentation I had to provide, everything. She totally got it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, thank God. It is so nice to work with somebody who understands this stuff. Here's the issue that we have. We have, and I get this. People do want to have, contractors want to have in-house people that supplement. Here's the issue in beef that I have with this. Contractors want to hire somebody off the street. Usually it's, I mean, doesn't this sound like it? Okay, I'm gonna hire some girl to work in my office for 16 or 20 bucks an hour. I'm gonna, or some man, it doesn't matter, man or woman, I'm going to teach them how to like run Xactimate, provide them this class, but then I want them to go through and be able to run my claims and make me money. How does that sound to you? That is not even normal. It is not normal. And so this is what I want to say to these contractors. Quit wasting your time and quit wasting your money. If you really want to make money doing claims or getting your claims through and making honest to good real money in it, you got to have somebody that has the know-how to do it, who's been doing it for a long time, that's got the chops and the knowledge to do it,
Well, and
right?
it's more of just the knowledge. Even like someone that if you had hire someone, say they've been in the industry for a year, you had them as a salesperson, they're moving into supplement,
Yeah.
whatever,
Mhm.
right? But they have to have the construction knowledge, right?
Mhm.
And if you're roofing, like we'll talk roofing specific, but
Yeah.
like if they're doing restoration, like
Yeah.
or water mitigation, they have
Yeah.
to know how things come apart and things go back together.
Right.
And if they don't know that, they're going to be ineffective.
Bar none.
Um,
Bar none. They have to know.
and then on top of it, not only do they have to know that part,
Mhm.
but then they have to know how to supplement. So
Mhm.
that's the estimating.
Mhm.
That's how like developing a process on, okay, if I talk to this person and it doesn't get me what I need what I need, then I need to
Mhm.
talk to this person, then I need to talk to this person. But the company itself also has to know, hey, if we get to X dollars per
Yeah.
square, shut it down.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get so. I mean, and you and I've seen this, and I've got a hard stop at 3, so we've got to wrap it
Yeah.
up here.
Wrap it up. That's fine.
Um, and so like we'll say this and then we'll move on. Then I'll do the opening and the closing. Um, but if they don't think about what their job costs are,
Mhm.
they're going to spend a lot of time stepping over a dollar to get to a dime. I know
Right.
you guys hear me say that all the time, but the reason that I say that is it's twofold.
Right.
Because if you have like you're so focused on line items, oh, I
Mhm.
need overhead profit, oh, I need this, oh, I need that,
Mhm.
instead of, hey, I got the 650 a square on this, or I got the 550 a square on this, I got the 450 a square on this, whatever your price is that you've
Mhm.
established for your company,
Mhm.
and moving on to the next one, you're going to get so bogged down with all of these claims that are sitting out, like all these roofs that are out and open. And a lot of the times, these contractors won't do them until the supplementing is settled. So now
Mhm.
you have clients that you keep pushing and pushing and pushing off
Mhm.
who are getting overly frustrated because you can't make the common realization that, hey, I should probably just take this money and run.
And most definitely, you need to. But that's another thing that we could talk about another time.
And there'll
To
be more conversations, of course, but
Yeah, we do need to talk about this though, like
yeah.
in depth, because that's the whole part of it. So just knowing how to put together a scope of work, that's small potatoes. Knowing how to supplement and get it approved, that's another whole thing. And knowing your costs, that's a whole nother thing. So
Yeah.
we could actually dissect each
Oh
kind
yeah,
of,
and it would be interesting to have Simi on when we have that conversation. I know
yeah,
Simi had stuff come up this week, um,
that's fine.
but just from his aspect, because he does all like the way I met Simi is I write his estimate. That's it, and he runs with it. And then if he has
Yeah,
a question, he'll come back to me and ask me a question.
yeah.
Um, and it's worked out really well for him and I. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that relationship. Shout
Yeah.
out to Roof in the 502. Um, and that's the thing, right? Like we just there's so much, and like that's why I love John Cenek's class. I love what Matt Mulholland's doing. Like, and it's all about education, and that's what I'm
And
all
that's
about,
it. Yes.
because there's so many great people out here that are trying to make it, that they get snagged by these gurus and coaches and all of that, and who don't know what they're talking about.
That's
That's
exactly
that's
right.
the,
They
that's
don't.
the scary thing. Or they're or
Hmm.
they're or they're or they're selling a system that's been in place since the 70s, like like a sales system.
Hmm.
Like I if you want to learn roofing sales, I'm not your guy. Adam Bensman's Adam Bensman's the dog. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
Um, but if you want to learn how to supplement and talk with insurance companies and what's going to work,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. Let's sit down and have a
Hmm.
conversation.
Right.
And I might be able to teach you a thing or two.
Hmm.
But if you want to do it all in house, that's great. Just know that there's going to be a significant contribution from you to get that up and going.
Right.
When there's other organizations out there that can pick it up and like instantly be on the phones and instantly pounding forward for you. So that's
Yeah.
all I got to say. We've got to shut it off. I got to go grab my kids from school.
Yeah.
Um, it's been wonderful to chat with you, Janelle. I'm sure you will be a, a semi-regular guest on this thing. Um, but we're always looking to expand the knowledge base and learn with the industry.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot of great things.
Hmm.
Shout out to Lisa Cimaroli, Tom During at Da Vinci. They can sponsor us too if they want. That would be awesome.
Hmm.
Like there's good people out there. And if there's people that I didn't mention, Taylor Ammons with, oh shoot, I just totally lost he's in Nashville. Totally just brain farted his company name. Now I'm gonna have to stop and look it up because I don't want to give him a shout out and not give his company Paragon Roofing. Good Lord. Should have remembered that. As soon as I saw it, I was like, don't. Um, but yeah, so like there's great people out there. There's some awesome people in our local area too.
Mhm.
And it's just, it's trying to get the word out and educate, because there's so many people that join this, whether it be roofing salesmen or new roofing company owners, that need, the knowledge that, someone that's been in the industry for 20 years, uh, someone that's been, like you and I, like, or John Cenac or Adam Bensman, like all of those people that are putting all this information out there. They need that, because without the total package, they're bound to fail. And that's probably why I think that the statistic I saw this week was 95% of new roofing companies fail within the first 5 years.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that, and if we can get that, like, start dwindling that number down, like I always say, a rising tide raises all ships. So, but that's it for this week. Thanks for coming on, Janelle. Show is brought to you, as always, by Good Life Claims and Roofing the 502. If you need contact information for that, reach out to us at hammersandhustle@gmail.com, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Okay, now I got to do the intro real quick. Um, hey, welcome to episode 2 of Hammers and Hustle podcast. I have Janelle Grieco with me today. She is an industry veteran. She's been around the industry for probably 15 years ish. And we're going to have a conversation regarding supplementing. Aviation's back on the podcast again this week, and it should be a good time. All right.